Welcome to Nature Connects, the podcast where we explore the deep and surprising relationships between people, places and the natural world. I'm your host, Ginnette Sutherland, and today we're heading to Devon Great Consols, one of the most iconic and biodiverse-rich heritage sites in the Tamar Valley. Joining us is Lesley Strong from Cornwall and West Devon Mining Landscape, World Heritage Site. And today we'll be focusing on the delicate balance between conserving cultural heritage and protecting vital ecosystems. We'll be diving into how sites like Devon Great Consols support rare species such as the Greater Horseshoe Bat and the Nightjar, and the challenges of managing landscapes that are both historically significant and ecologically fragile. So we've walked up through the woods from the car park at Scrubtor, taking in the sights and sounds of the journey up to Devon Great Consols. So with me I have Lesley Strong. Lovely to meet with you and thank you so much for your time. So we've had to tuck ourselves in amongst the trees. We've got a bit of a blustery day, so you can hear the trees, but hopefully that will set the atmosphere, but will give us the opportunity to talk about the site. Could you just start off setting the scene of Devon Great Consols?
Yeah, of course. Let me just step back in time. It's amazing to think that this landscape had 100 mines operating in the Tamar Valley. So it's hugely different to today when you've got the wind in the trees and the wildlife. It's such a peaceful place now. But it was Devon Great Consols was a huge copper mine. It was the most important copper mine in Europe. Originally it was several smaller mines, and again, as the consolidated word tells you, they all came together in this huge enterprise. So in the 1840s, this mine was at its peak. So again, I say it was shipping copper all over the world. And it also had a massive infrastructure. I think the thing we always think with mining heritage is about those engine houses out on cliff tops. But here we have a site where it demonstrates something more about the World Heritage Site. We actually have 7 attributes that give us outstanding universal value, and that is why we were designated to be internationally significant. So they can range from the mine sites, where people lived in the mining settlements, infrastructure, railways, canals, mine workers' small holdings, and geology. So within those 7 attributes, that's what makes us important. So here we are at Devon Great Consols. We've got the mine site. We've got the old railway line that took the produce down to the quays. So that's your important railway and shipping context. And we're surrounded by small pockets of Duke of Bedford cottages. And again, those would have been the places where people lived that worked on the mine. And the other thing here was that it was the wealth from this mine that was taken into Tavistock, which is also part of Area 10 of the World Heritage Site. And that then was the wealth that was used to build those fantastic buildings in the centre of Tavistock. So it's all combined. We're in this very rural place now. It was very, very industrial, and also it has that great connection with Tavistock and that demonstration of wealth by the Bedfords that we still see today.
Yeah, so it's as we were walking up, we were saying it is that holistic view that we see iconic landscapes, but actually we're talking about the whole civilization and the life that came from that period of time.
And I think it's also important with this site that mining was very much a boom and bust industry. So you have that huge spike in copper mining. When that dropped away, you then had the arsenic coming through. And a lot of these dumps around here, these orangey sands and some of the structures you see on the site is from that period of time. So that was probably going up to the early 1900s. And it's those other things like that secondary mining, like those calciners, that are another one of those attributes, which is the ancillary industries. So they're all part of that mining story.
So Lesley, it'd be great if you could tell us a bit about your role within the landscape and what you do.
I'm the Stakeholder Engagement Officer with the Cornwall and West Devon Mining Landscape World Heritage Site. The site covers 10 separate areas, ranging from Area 1, which is down in St Just, up to Area 10, where we are today, which is the Tamar Valley Mining District with Tavistock. We're what's known as a serial site, so we're not a single site like the City of Bath, but we are these 10 scattered sites that all together make up one World Heritage Site. Area 10, again, got Tavistock is one of our key centres, Tavistock Guildhall, so that's a great place to go and learn more about us, particularly in this area, and also to set us in context with the rest of the World Heritage Site.
You've painted that picture of the mining industry and the landscape as far as the cultural heritage. So what about the biodiversity? That's what's drawing us here today, is looking at that balance between biodiversity and heritage and how conservation in both of those terms is intertwined.
I think it's something we need to look at holistically, and they're both stories of this landscape. These altered landscapes, particularly this site, because you've got some very, very obvious areas of bare ground, can feel that they're a difficult place for nature. They're actually an amazing place for nature. You can get some really rare bryophytes on these sites, some quite rare fungi that actually they're designed to deal with these quite altered landscapes.
Yes.
On the other hand, you look into the woodlands here, you've got the settling ponds, you've got the leach systems, you've got all the little lumps and bumps which make a brilliant microclimate. So what they're doing, they're really adding a mosaic to the area and adding to that biodiversity value. On our lovely walk up through the trees this morning, we saw that fantastic wetland area. So that has a history, that is connected and produced as part of the mining process.
Yes.
But today, it's just a lovely, tranquil habitat for wildlife.
Yes.
Leaks, again, you find leaks coming into the system that was driving that machinery, key part of that mining story. They're now, again, another wetland habitat, but they're a slower moving wetland habitat than the fast moving River Tamar.
Yes.
So you're starting to stitch together that story where mining and biodiversity can work together and on a landscape scale. So we're in the Cornwall and West Devon Mining Landscape World Heritage Site. So as we say, landscape. Everything we're now looking at is on a landscape scale. It's about that connectivity. It's about how everything fits together. And I think we're at a time now where it's a great opportunity to work together holistically to get those positive outcomes for heritage and for wildlife.
Yeah.
And this is a site where we can start to discuss some of those ways that can happen.
That's it, and they go hand in hand, and one is happening because of the other and vice versa.
Absolutely.
So delving into that landscape scale and the ecology of this landscape, how do you approach the challenge of conserving heritage features while also protecting sensitive species like the Greater Horseshoe Bat and the Nightjar?
Can I just turn that round from challenge to opportunity?
Absolutely.
I think there are plenty of opportunities to do that. We look in this landscape, and it's important for the Greater Horseshoe Bats. There's a maternity roost close by for those bats, and it's in an adit. It's in a place that is marked by the mining landscape and the mining history. It's then looking at those things on a landscape scale. It's looking at the connectivity of the landscape, those hedgerows that take you out to other places where you feed, those other feeding habitats. So I think we need to look at it in that context and look how we can work together so everything benefits.
So are there examples where heritage conservation efforts have directly benefited biodiversity or vice versa? I've had in my time at the Valley, you know, there's those conversations that you have with members of the community, whether their perspective is that they may look at, for example, a chimney or an engine house and feel that it's becoming overgrown or it isn't being managed, of how do we manage those expectations of those two elements of the biodiversity and the heritage?
I think it's one of those things that you need to look at carefully. The importance of doing historic impact assessments and ecological impact assessments, so you're fully informed of what the work is and what the benefits are. So again, you can communicate those and take people on board. So if we go to something like a mine building that is under restoration, we are looking at consolidating that mine building to stop it falling into disrepair. But there are other elements we can build in around that. We'd be using natural materials, we'd be taking on ecological surveys. And it's often not just those above ground features, it's some of the underground features as well around it so it's understanding that fully before we take on any work. The other one that's more interesting in a site like this is keeping those areas of open ground, which is so important for some of those rarer species, those rarer bryophytes. And that can also benefit things like butterflies. Down in Area 6 of the World Heritage Site, the Ginnette Mining District, Butterfly Conservation have been doing some clearance work on some of that mine spoil, again stopping that sort of encroachment of vegetation. And that's brilliant because that's benefiting the butterflies, but it's also benefiting the mining heritage by keeping those areas open. Yeah. So again, it's looking at ways that you can work together to make that happen.
Yes, and I think it's key, isn't it, within our role of communication, it's ensuring that those messages get out there, that people understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, what it's benefiting, and that balance between heritage conservation and ecological conservation and management, isn't it? And sometimes it's going beyond conserving. We're not trying to necessarily conserve it in a moment in time. It needs to evolve to accommodate nature and climate and people all at the same time as we move forward into the future.
I do, and I think one of those aspects of that is looking at the diversity of habitat.
Yes.
And I think areas like this provide a really good opportunity to develop those mosaics. Let's focus on those where we can have a positive outcome for both.
Yes.
Let's keep those dialogues open and say opportunities, not challenges.
Absolutely. So putting a spotlight on our special species, so the Greater Horseshoe Bat and the Nightjar are two of the Tamar Valley special species identified in our nature recovery plan. So we've already touched on the Greater Horseshoe Bat and the importance of the site and its connectivity, as you say, in a real holistic way. So can you tell us a little bit more about the Nightjar?
I think in terms of the Nightjar here, we can talk about mining and that sort of development of heathland. Really good sites for heathland. And again, that's part of that whole conversation about management of not letting that encroach on the heathland as well. Heathland's brilliant, it's low growing ground, it complements those basking areas as well for your invertebrates and things. In terms of the Nightjar, you've got perfect conditions here. You've got the heathland and you've got edged with the conifer woodland. So that's the sort of habitat they absolutely thrive in.
Yes.
And again, because we've got this space, because we've got this mine site and we've got that heathland, what a fantastic place to come and see Nightjar. And it's a really great story, again, of how mining heritage and biodiversity works hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's that full circle, isn't it, where we as humans, but as part of nature, come back in with that nature connection and understanding that we have these species in this landscape. You know, I haven't yet seen a Nightjar myself, but obviously this morning we've seen multiple dog walkers and runners, and it's again communicating to our communities, come and use these sites, connect with them, but also have that awareness of the value that the site has for nature. So ensuring, like with the Nightjar, it's a ground nesting bird, and we all just need to have that at the forefront of our minds when we're using these spaces.
And I also think, these are quite fragile spaces as well. You've got the ground nesting birds, but you've also got the fragile nature of the spoil. So if you get a lot of trampling and erosion in those sort of areas, and particularly on these slopes because they're quite unconsolidated,
Yes.
and you start getting runoff where you've got trampling, then you can start getting erosion as well. There's a lot of factors going on there, but it's a delicate balance. So it's also a great site for walkers because you've got this fantastic network of pathways which were once miners' trackways. They were once railway tracks that led down to the river to export the material. It's just a great place to enjoy today. So we're bringing people into the landscape, but we've just got to be a little bit mindful of what pressures that could bring with it.
Yes.
Hi everyone, my name's Sabina Ebley and I'm here helping Ginnette out today. I'm another member of the Tamar Valley National Landscape team, and I'm going to talk to you about two of our Tamar Valley special species, one of which is the Nightjar and the other is the Greater Horseshoe Bat. Mysterious and elusive, the Nightjar is a master of camouflage and quiet charm. Found across heathlands, woodlands and moorlands, this nocturnal bird is best known for its haunting churring call and silent flight. With mottled plumage that blends seamlessly into leaf litter, it's a challenge to spot during the day, and as a ground nesting bird, it is important to stick to paths and keep dogs on leads during the nesting season. Nightjars feed on moths and other flying insects, catching them mid-air with remarkable agility. And as dusk falls, their presence becomes known not by sight but by sound, an eerie soundtrack to twilight in the wild. The Greater Horseshoe Bat is one of Britain's most remarkable nocturnal mammals, with a face as distinctive as its name. Named for the horseshoe-shaped flap of skin around its nose, this bat uses sophisticated echolocation to hunt insects in the dark, especially moths and beetles. Roosting in old buildings and caves, it emerges at dusk, flying low and slow over hedgerows and pastures. Once widespread, it's now rare and protected, making every sighting a special moment in nature. Its presence is a sign of healthy habitats and careful conservation.
It's clear when being on a site like here, it really reminds us of how humans have shaped and influenced the landscape over such a long period of time, but also the importance of the part we now play in nature's recovery. So can we talk a bit about partnership working and the importance of us both within the organisations we're in, community engagement, communication, of how that looks and how that needs to move forward for the future of landscape recovery?
We've both got landscape in our title of our designations, and I think it is much more that landscape scale now that we're looking at and working in partnership. We don't own any of these sites. It's a case of influencing the decision makers of what happens going forward. And I think it's also because we've got management plans, we've got documentation that outlines policies, that they're aligned and we're working together, because we can deliver and achieve so much more in partnership than we could going alone. Certainly from the World Heritage Site, we operate definitely through our management plan, through the Sustainable Development Goals of UNESCO. And again, that's very closely aligned to the life on land and the life in water, but also looking at those communities. So we're talking about the communication, sense of place,
yes,
because mining in the Tamar Valley has a huge influence on that sense of place. So I think we need to just remember to factor that into our thinking, and just the opportunities now, because we're looking at catchment scale, because we're looking at landscape scale and landscape recovery and nature recovery, that's the way we've got to think going forward. And the fact that we've got these opportunities, we've got these mosaics we can work with together to maximise. I think there's lots of opportunities for us to work together going forward. And there's lots of other organisations that we have within our partnerships as well. So we're not going it alone. We've got lots of people behind us to help make it happen.
And it's building that momentum, isn't it? And I know from the work that I've been doing on nature connection, that is that whole sense of place, that belonging within a landscape and being part of that living, breathing and working landscape is vital, that our communities feel a part of it and that they are on this journey with us, that when we're talking partnerships and stakeholders, they are the core and centre of any of the work that we do.
Absolutely, and I think it's important to tell those stories, isn't it? The stories of the past, the stories of connection now, and the stories of how we're going to look at that going forward.
Yeah. So we've chatted about the importance of connecting our communities with the landscape and with nature. So spending time with you up here at Devon Great Consols, a place where industrial heritage and nature recovery meet, how has your connection to nature deepened through encounters with species like the Nightjar, the Greater Horseshoe Bat, but also this morning we've had to shelter in under the trees out from the gusts of the wind. So if you could just talk to us about your experience and nature connectedness in these landscapes.
I think this is an amazing place to connect with nature. It's one of those places, we're walking down here today, we've been walking through the trees and smelling those amazing oils coming from the conifers through the slightly damp atmosphere, which is absolutely incredible. But then we've also been going through those hidden landscapes. So there's things to draw your eye as you're going along. We then came down to this area and opened into this glorious view over the Tamar Valley, which is just fantastic. I've done quite a lot of forest bathing in the past, but I did go on a really interesting session a few years ago where you're actually sitting in a space but actually thinking about how people would have been engaging in that space in the past, taking yourself back to a place in history and just thinking, what would life have been like? And here today, if you stepped back in history, it'd be a very different place with all that industrial heritage, all that bustle going on, and all their fears and thoughts about the future then. And then you compare them with what we've got now. And I think interesting for Area 10 of the World Heritage Site, the strapline is nature and industry entwined. And I think this site is just perfect example of that.
And I must admit, earlier on when you said about the pathways and the tramways, I did for a split second, my mind just took me back of walking in the paths of others and just what that must have been like. And it is an incredible site. So if you've listened to this and it's a site you've not visited, there's multiple access points. We've accessed the site today from Scrubtor car park. You can also access the site from the Tamar Trails car park. So take a look at your map, go on the website and come and have an explore. Be prepared. They're wooded tracks, gravel tracks, but it's well signposted. Be prepared for the weather, but do come and stroll. Don't march, stroll, look round each corner, peep through the trees, and you will smell nature, hear it, see it, but you will also see the story of the past as well. So Lesley, thank you so much for walking up here with us today. It has been a bit blowy. We've managed to stay dry. Thank you so much for your time and your knowledge about the site. It's been fantastic.
Thank you. It's just lovely to get out here and just remind yourself what all this is about.
Absolutely. And I look forward to more partnership working in the future. As our time here at Devon Great Consols comes to an end and we step back into the woodlands, it's the perfect opportunity to stop and reflect on our morning, to consider what we've seen, what we've heard, what we've smelt, and those stories, the stories of the past and the hope for the future. So if you can, pause, engage, and connect. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Nature Connects. A heartfelt thank you to Lesley Strong for sharing her insights into Devon Great Consols and the wider Tamar Valley, where heritage and biodiversity come together to offer powerful opportunities for nature connectedness. This podcast has been made possible thanks to the National Lottery Heritage funded Tamara Landscape Partnership Scheme, which supports projects that connect people with the natural and cultural heritage of the Tamar Valley. Special thanks to Photo Now for their technical support and bringing this episode to life. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe, share the episode and leave us a review. It helps others discover the stories where nature truly connects us all.